We have seen multiple reports over the past few weeks. A handful of them are saying the US economy is getting better. However, there are more reports that are coming out right now that are actually saying the US economy is getting worse. I want to address what's going on there and why things are not looking so much better like many experts are telling us. So we're going to address that. We're also going to talk about how there's more upward pressure on inflation. We've been hearing for the past few months that the Federal Reserve, they're raising rates. That's going to bring down inflation. However, that may not be true because the Federal Reserve might not be doing as much as they should be. I will address that in just a minute. I'm also going to talk about some items that you should be picking up to really prep now and prepare just in case we have another emergency. When I say another emergency, I'm not talking about another 2 years of pain that we saw from 2020 to 2022. I'm talking about an emergency like we cannot get food into the grocery stores. Well, if we can't, what do? That's where you need to prepare, all right? So I'll give you a list of some of the items that will actually pretty much disappear off the shelves as quickly as possible, because these are the things that you should be buying just to make sure you are prepared. So that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. But let's get started. And all I ask, take 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's begin. So here's what happened today, and this is actually something that's pretty big. We actually got the new data from the ADP report, and ADP now shows that companies added about 132,000 jobs in August. Just keep in mind that this data that comes out from ADP, this is not the full data that we need for our jobs report. This is just a small amount. However, we added jobs. Now you're probably thinking, well, that's good. We added jobs, right? Well, no. This is actually pretty big. And this is big considering that the Federal Reserve has been doing everything that they can to prevent hiring. When the Federal Reserve raises rates, what they are expecting is businesses to not reinvest back into their business. They expect hiring to slow down, which it has. I believe last month we added about 270,000 jobs. That's pretty good. However, that's also bad news for the Federal Reserve because now the Federal Reserve has to come out and raise rates even faster, or at least continuing raising rates at the same pace. Now, this number from ADP is actually very interesting. And I say this because we also know at the same time what we heard today from the JOLTS report is that there's more job openings. That the job openings actually unexpectedly rose to 11.2 million. That is 800,000 more jobs than what was estimated. Because according to economists, they estimated that we were going to go from 10.7 million open positions down to 10.4. However, it rose to 11.2. So this is very close to record numbers of job openings. But here's what's crazy about these two statistics is that with so many open positions and so little people unemployed, again, keep in mind, unemployment rate is very low. Well, if the unemployment rate is very low, but there's so many open positions, what we see are employers coming out and giving wage increases, giving larger than expected salaries in order to attract new employees. Well, guess what? That puts upward pressure on wages. And wage increases in this day and age is the biggest concern for the Federal Reserve because it's going to put, again, more upward pressure on inflation. That's concerning. Well, here's the problem. The Federal Reserve is attempting to bring down inflation, which everybody says is something that we need at this time. But the problem is that wages are expected to keep increasing. Economists are actually predicting that student debt forgiveness is only going to put more upward pressure on inflation because now people that had student loan debt don't have to make that payment. Now, again, there's a lot of issues going on here, but we're not getting that in today's video. As of right now, these millions of people will not have to pay back any of their student debt, or up to $10,000. That's going to put more pressure on inflation. And then we factor in that gas prices are going down, but the current administration is giving tax credits for buying an electric vehicle. So as gas prices go down, what should happen, according to multiple experts, is we shouldn't be giving a tax credit to go and buy an electric vehicle, because what that's going to do is, again, put more upward pressure on inflation, right? Again, it's a major problem. And then let's factor in something else I think a lot of people are completely missing, and that is the fact that shelter makes up 1/3 of the CPI report. And the rents as of right now are starting to rise, and they are expected to climb. We are expecting to see rents just skyrocket. And if we see rents skyrocket, this is going to put more upward pressure on inflation. Again, one of the reasons why I personally believe the CPI report has been so low, and when I say so low, it's 8.5%. That is not low, right? That's very high. However, some say that our actual inflation number is between 12 and 15%. 12 and 15%. But the only reason why we're not seeing that number come out is because rents have been so slow to increase. Again, keep that in mind. But this is a major problem. So while the federal government and the Federal Reserve are telling us that the goal is to bring down inflation and things are going to be just fine, well, their actions are telling us something different. And so this is a major problem, but again, there's not a lot we can do. We can just kind of sit here and watch as things get worse. But this is also why I highly recommend you prepare. Put money aside. Save. Don't just invest. Save. Save some money. Pay off debt. Get ready, because when things get really bad, then you could potentially have some form of a way to get out of this. Okay? So again, if you have questions on that, please let me know. You can always ask your questions down in the comment section below. Now, one of the questions I'm getting quite often is, how is the student debt forgiveness paid for? Because we keep hearing that millions of Americans are going to get their student debt forgiven. But how is it paid for? We haven't seen anything about, oh yeah, the money's coming from here, or that's where we're gonna get some money from additional taxes, right? That's not what we're hearing. The money that's coming in to the IRS from additional audits of so-called the wealthy or individuals, the problem there is that money's going to for climate. It's not going to the student debt forgiveness. So after a lot of people started asking this, started to do some more research, well, we had a statement from the White House. The White House had this to say: we're on track for $1.7 trillion in deficit reduction this year. That means, practically speaking, compared to the previous year, 1.7 trillion more dollars are coming into the Treasury than are going out. And we're using a portion of that, a very small portion of it, to provide relief to middle-class families consistent with the president's plan. So essentially what they're saying is, we are expecting to bring in about $1.7 trillion more than we are pushing out. So, technically speaking, we can take up to $1.7 trillion, and essentially we're not changing the course of our deficit, right? Yes and no. But that is very tough to go with that type of math and that type of thinking. It would be similar to let's say you were going to go and spend money on a new vacation or something, and you're going to spend, let's say, $5,000 to go somewhere, right? And then you decide, you know what, we're not going to go on vacation. We just can't do that, right? Can't do that right now. So instead of spending $5,000 on that vacation, you decide, I'm going to go and buy a $1,000 TV. So essentially, it didn't cost you $1,000, you actually saved $4,000. So again, it's White House math for you. Now, I don't want to get into the student debt forgiveness too much in this video, but just understand there's a lot of things going on with this. Some are still trying to figure out, does President Biden have the legal authority to do this? Some say yes, some say no, but according to reports, there is nothing that's going to be shown on anybody's student debt payments or plans. We're not going to see anything until potentially January. So as of right now, there are a lot of people that are speculating that no, President Biden doesn't have the legal authority, but this at least pushes him all the way past the midterm elections. So hopefully Democrats can win more seats. If they do, and then we find out, you know what? No, he didn't have the legal authority. If they win more seats in the Senate, potentially they can come out and do a budget reconciliation, and they can forgive maybe up to $10,000 or $50,000 in student debt relief. So again, it's kind of part of that bigger plan. Now, I don't know if this is really going to happen. Only time will tell, but I promise I will be here every step of the way, and I will fill you in on any new updates that we get. Now, I want to give you this list. And the reason why I want to give you this list is because I've been getting a lot of questions from people asking, why do I continue to say that there's shortages? Because we're not seeing those shortages. Well, I'm continuing to tell you about these shortages because they are coming. We are seeing them. It may not be in your area. In my area where I live, I'm not seeing a shortage of things like meat. In some cases, yes, but in most cases, no. Now, other places are seeing a shortage of meats. Whether it's chicken, whether it's turkey, whether it's beef, it doesn't matter, right? I've also been seeing there is a shortage of vegetables where I live. Now, again, is that a big deal to me? In many cases, no, because I have access to gardens where I can get the vegetables that I need and that myself and my family consume. But again, we are seeing shortages. But here's the reason why I want to give you this, because I want you to prepare. That's it. If things get worse, right? And I put SHTF, and if you don't know what that means, go and Google it. But if you know what hits the fan, I want you to be prepared. So here are some of the items that you should be picking up at your grocery store, every now and then. Just make sure you have these on hand. Most of these things are going to last for quite some time. They have pretty good shelf life. But these are also the things that disappear from store shelves first. Okay? Here's the list. Canned meats and seafood, like tuna. Canned fruits and vegetables, any type of canned goods. These things fly off the shelves because their shelf life is so long. Dried beans. Also get canned beans. Packs of rice. Again, these will last for a while. Nuts. Dried fruit. Frozen vegetables. Crackers. Peanut butter and jelly. This stuff is gone quick. And gallons of water. If you remember back in March 2020, when we went to the store thinking like, okay, we're going to be shut down for about 2 years. What should we do? What should we have in our pantry? Well, I remember going to the store. I picked up some things that I would never buy. Never buy. But I had to buy them because that was all there was. Now, I went to the store a handful of times, when I was telling you guys, go and get these things because the stores are going to shut down. They're going to shut down. And then we started to see that if you were driving around, you almost had to have like a reason. You almost had to have a note that you were one of those employees that was, essential. And if you didn't have that note and you got caught, then potentially you could go to jail or you can get a ticket or whatever, right? And so even when that was happening, I was telling people, go and buy these things. And this list I just gave you, okay, canned meat, seafood, beans, dried beans, rice, nuts, dried fruit, frozen vegetables, crackers, peanut butter and jelly, and gallons of water. All these things were gone. You looked to try to find bread, it was gone. Again, bread is not something that you can keep in your pantry for months. You could freeze it. Milk, eggs, actual meat, right? You can use those things. You can freeze them. Those are all things that you can get. But again, those are things that are going to be just flying off the shelf if things get very bad. Here's some other things that you should highly consider getting. These are things that I actually keep on hand even now and even before the past 2 years. I've been keeping these things on hand, but some of these things are just in case of an emergency. For example, AA and AAA batteries. Got to keep those on hand. Keep hand soap and hand sanitizer. Keep that on hand. Ibuprofen and Tylenol. Keep that on hand. Now for women, maybe you want pads or tampons or whatever you may need, right? These are things that you should highly consider buying ahead of time, just in case, because these are also some of the things that will just fly off the shelf. And obviously, we can throw this out there. I don't think we need to, but toilet paper. This is another thing that will fly off the shelves if there's an actual emergency. Okay? So, that's what we know right now. As always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.